October 4th, 2017 Council of Governments meeting to order. Our first order of business is to the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first order of business is public comment. Public comment is 5 minutes per person. Comments shall be limited to items that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council and not on the posted agenda. Do we have any public comment this evening? Seeing none, we are going to take item number 8, the public hearing and resolutions adopting the 2017 Calaveras Regional Transportation Plan and the mitigated negative declaration, and take item number 8 as our next agenda item.
All right, good evening, Council. This item is adoption of the final 2017 Regional Transportation Plan, and it's also adoption of the environmental document, which is a mitigated negative declaration. At the meeting in August, we provided a presentation. We had Jeff Schwein of Green Dot Transportation Solutions did a presentation on the draft RTP. Since then, we developed the environmental document and did the required 30-day public noticing and comment period. We received 4 comments, 2 on the RTP and 2 on the environmental document. Tonight, we're asking the council to open a public hearing for the environmental document, and then we'll also be asking you to approve 2 resolutions, one for adoption of the plan and then one for adoption of the environmental document. I have here with me Jeff Schwein of Green Dot Transportation Solutions, and he'll kind of just do a really brief overview again of what the plan entails, and then also kind of the comments we received and our responses to those comments.
Great.
I'll press the button. Yeah, there you go.
How's that? All right. Good. So it's nice to be here. Thank you for having me. My name is Jeff Schwein with Green Dot Transportation Solutions, and we were the primary consultant who helped develop the Regional Transportation Plan for Calaveras County. We've been working on it for over a year, so this is a nice day to finally have the culminating event and hopeful adoption of this document. The Regional Transportation Plan, as you know, is a required document. If you want to get funding from the state or federal government, you have to have your projects in this plan. The plan has to be constrained. You can't promise that you're going to build projects that you don't have the reasonable funding for. So we have 3 different types of project lists. One is a short-range project list that we can reasonably assume that the funding is going to be available. We have projections. We can do a 10-year funding projection and get those projects aligned with the amount of funding that we feel is going to be coming to the region. The next is the second 10-year project list, which basically is the project list that says we're not sure what we're going to have after year 10, but between year 10 and 20, we'll have a certain amount of money. We can kind of project it, but it's a little bit looser, and this project list aligns with that funding pot. Beyond that, we have illustrative projects, which are projects that are sometimes large-scale projects or sometimes aren't the highest priority, but we want to have them in here just in case some funding comes available or we want to move projects around. So those are called illustrative projects. They really have no funding associated with them. They're the long-term beyond about 2037. So those are the project lists. In the document, we also have 2 other elements that kind of complement the action element with the projects. Those are the policy element and the financial element. In the policy element, a couple things that we adjusted this year, or this round of the Regional Transportation Plan, were transit and non-motorized transportation. The region has a pretty good bicycle and pedestrian master plan, and so we incorporated some of the policies from that into this Regional Transportation Plan. Other policies that were adjusted were safety. We kind of We beefed up the safety element in the policies section in order to pursue funding that is targeted directly at safety projects. So those, the projects that are in there align with the policies, and they're targeting the safety funding. And then the other one, of course, the policy for maintaining the existing infrastructure. What we have in place is very valuable. It's very important. The region spent a lot of money on it. The state has spent a lot of money on it. We need to protect that and keep it in a good state of repair. And so therefore, the policies, the financial element, and the action element all align to promote the maintenance of the existing system. So there's about $170 million worth of revenue expected in the next 10 years, and about $170 million worth of project expected to be delivered in the next 10 years. Beyond that, it's about $160 million from year 10 to year 20. So this plan goes through 2037. So as Amber said, we released a draft in August of the Regional Transportation Plan. It's gone through the proper reviews. We did receive some comments on the draft Regional Transportation Plan as well as the associated environmental document. The comments on the environmental document were very standard responses from the regulatory agencies, Fish and Wildlife, and I believe Fish and Game. So those basically sort of address their canned responses to a pretty benign mitigated negative declaration CEQA review. So the comments on the Regional Transportation Plan, we received 2 sets of comments, one from the Calaveras Planning Coalition and one from California State Department of Transportation. We feel like we actually got complimented on the Regional Transportation Plan. Some of the comments were just saying that we did a good job of addressing sort of the current trends in transportation planning, the current trends in state and federal funding goals, and so that was good. There was a few things that we adjusted in the Regional Transportation Plan based on the comments. One of them was the addition of a few non-motorized policy components that aligned with the state transportation plan, and one was the addition of more language addressing the Senate Bill 1, which provided a big boost in transportation funding to the state and the region, and so we addressed the comments and beefed up the language for those items. So that's the end of my report. You have a good document in front of you. It'll get you through the next 20 years, but you'll readopt it or go out and make adjustments in the next 5 years, or because you have to adopt this again or redo it in 5 years to make sure that it's current. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council? Seeing none, do we have any public comment? And this is item number 8 that we're looking at, the Regional Transportation Plan and Mitigated Negative Declaration. Just as a point of order, I'm going to open up a public hearing, and so I'll go ahead and open the public hearing on this item and asking to see if there's any public comment. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. At this time, the action item is to ask for the resolutions that we have associated with this agenda item. Resolution fiscal year 18-7, adopting the Regional Transportation Plan. And then resolution fiscal year 18-8, adopting the Mitigated Negative Declaration of Environmental Impact. Do we have a motion to approve the 2 resolutions? Do we have a second? Moved by Councilmember Munides, seconded by Councilmember Catalano. All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved 7-0. Jeff, thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you.
We move forward quickly with item number 8, So our next item on the agenda is actually the consent agenda. There's one item on the consent agenda, is the approval of the Council of Governments regular meeting minutes for last month.
Some of,
Do we have a second?
second.
Councilmember Nudity moved, Councilmember Herman seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved 7-0.
Chair, did you ask for comments on the consent agenda?
I did not.
I'm sorry, I thought.
Actually, you did. When you first opened the meeting, you did.
I asked for public comment on items not on the agenda. I think Mr. Call was asking if I had public comment
I
on the
apologize.
consent agenda. Do you have a public comment on the consent agenda that you'd like to at least approach the board with?
I'm going to ask you, Mr. Chairman, Gary Caldwell, Valley Springs, if on the consent agenda, the minutes
Correct.
of September 6th, if I could address an item on those minutes.
Okay, I apologize to the council because this is a little out of order, but it was my mistake, so please go forward.
Is that all right?
Yes,
To
please
talk
go
about
forward.
the minutes from the September meeting?
Please go forward, yes.
Okay, I looked at, by the way, I apologize for not being at the last two meetings. My wife and I have been doing some traveling. On the September 6th agenda, item 9A talked about something about paperwork on the intersection project at 1226. I'm not sure what that meant. I don't know if there's still paperwork to do, or if it's not completed, or
But this is kind of public comment on that. I didn't really want to get into too big discussion. Do you want to just answer the question real quickly?
Yeah, I'll answer it kind of two parts. I think one, why the minutes are so brief is because we have a recording of our meetings. And then two, I guess the question is, that's the answer we got from the Public Works Director when asked about the 1226 project and why it said 0% complete on our CIP. And now the paperwork is caught up, and as you'll see in our CIP reports this month, the 1226 project is no longer on the CIP because the
No
paperwork
longer
has
what?
been caught up. The 1226 project is no longer on the CIP.
It's a completed project.
okay, because I was curious about it because the there was a ribbon cutting in July of 2016 at which the Caltrans District Director attended, and I thought it's got to be wrapped up by now, over a year plus. When we used to final out projects, the accounting department gave us 60 days to come up with a final estimate. If we didn't come up with a final estimate in 60 days, they didn't pay any more bills. So I was curious as to whether or not this is a problem with the county finishing up the paperwork required by the state or required by the council, or is the paperwork now complete?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's hope so. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Call.
And now, are you going to public comment,
No,
Mr. Chair?
we already had the public comment section of the agenda asked earlier in this meeting. The public comment section of the agenda has already went by. We al-
Came in
you
after.
came in- You came in late to the meeting, so you missed the public comment opportunity.
It's where now?
It was already held this evening.
You came in about 3 minutes after he called for it.
Before item 8?
Right, yes,
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
okay. So now, on our regular agenda, item number 3, the fiscal year 2016-17 quarterly financial reports and year-end budget to actuals. This is Ms. Raggio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you said, this is fiscal year 16-17 financial reports and budget to actuals. If you want to skip and go ahead to page 11, this fund, our overall work program operating account, reflects the OWP budget and our operating budget. On the left-hand side is all the budgeted revenue. year-to-date is reflected on the right. We worked with our outside auditor and the county auditor to make some changes in how we record our revenue. Previous years, we've reflected what we transfer in from the designated funds under 4719, operating funds, intertransfer. The outside auditor suggested we record those revenues in the associated revenues. So if you look at 4668, this is state quarter percent sales tax, this is LTF. In the past, we've recorded that under transfers in. So if you look, there's no budgeted amount, but it reflects we've collected $412,000. If you look under line item 4521, this is federal aid. It looks, we show 0 budgeted, but it reflects a collected amount of $249,000. This equals what we had anticipated as transfers in. Does that make sense? So far, do I have you guys? Okay. So collected revenue was $1,305,000. If you go down to the second page, this reflects expenditures at $1,055,000. This will match the balance sheet on page 14. Any questions so far? Okay, if you look at page 14, this is our operating account. This shows you what our revenue and expenditures were, and it also reflects the reserve general, which is the $303,906. This is our operating reserve amount. Page 15 is the LTF fund. This reflects a balance of $756,000. This also has a general or reserve amount. It's reflected as $91,695. The next fund is the STA fund. It shows the fund equity at $90.53. This is because we submitted budget schedules to the auditor controller reflecting due to other governments. So STA was due to, the transit fund. The next fund account is the RSTP. Do you already passed it? Okay. So the one that was submitted in the packet showed a transfer in, and now on the new sheet that I provided is reflected as expenditures of the 224. Okay, on this page, the main part that I wanted to go over, and if you look at my staff report, this is the first time in the staff report I've included under the designated funds the programming that was approved by the council. So for the RSTP, if you look on page 9 of the staff report, that reflects the 4 years of programming approved by the council and the different projects for the city and county. If you look at the balance sheet, it identifies county reserve, city reserve, and then the COG reserve of $132,000. The next page, the bike and pedestrian account, page 18, that reflects the reserve for the city. They have $13,200 programmed to a project, and then that has the balance at $51,364. The next one is the PTMI SCA account. Again, it reflects the reserve of county projects program. And then the CalOES fund is the last one, reflecting a county project budgeted or programmed at $73,161. I'd be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Council? Any questions from the public on the agenda item number 3, the quarterly financial reports and year-end budget to actuals?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are on item 3, correct?
Correct.
Going to come up to speed here. First of all, I wanted to commend the council for having a savings in the operations budget of $56,000. Not too many times do you hear a public entity say that they've saved $56,000 in operating costs. I'd love to see that. As you know, my interest is and has been for many years project cost, project delivery, and project timing. And I wanted to comment on page 9. There's the chart showing the, and I can never say this correctly, PTM ISEA fund, and it says 211,000 approximately was not programmed. And with many state and federal programs, if you don't use it, you have to give it back. And I'm wondering if this is going to have to go back, this $211,000 is going to have to go back to the state.
Would you like me to answer, Mr. Chair? It won't have to go back because we haven't submitted allocation requests to receive the 211. The state controller's office has let us know it's still available, and if we had a project that was eligible, we could request the funding.
So did I understand you to say, Melissa, it will not necessarily have to go back to the state?
No, it's still available to the Calaveras region, and if an eligible project was submitted, we could receive the funding until June of 2018.
And I was curious, I realize it says program, that the council has not yet programmed the 211,000 if it ever is going to do it. But further on in this agenda, as far as cash on hand, it shows PTM ISEA account with $352,000 cash on hand. Is there a reason why all this money is sitting there and not being either programmed or spent?
Mr. Chair, we can-
Go ahead.
We started with 1.6 million, so we have completed multiple projects. At this time, we still have the 352, and we have programmed 340 of that. The 10,000 is interest we've collected in this designated fund, and if we wanted to program another project to utilize the 10,000, we could do that.
So that $350,000 that's sitting there is going to be programmed and spent.
It is currently already programmed. It is already allocated to 2 projects, and they are drawing down on those balances currently. So if you look at the staff report that shows the program, the Phase 4 bus stop project, was programmed at 306. They've drawn down on that. There's only about 272 left. The only project they haven't started invoicing on is the AVL, which was programmed at 68,000.
Okay, and that 306,000, if I'm looking at the right chart that you just referenced, that's from programming done in 14-15
Yes.
and has yet to be spent on a project.
They have spent approximately 52,000 on the project. They bought the shelters, and now they're putting them together at the bus stops.
They meaning the county public
Yes.
works department?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
This is an informational item.
Any further council comment on the informational item? Seeing none, we can move on to item number 4. The Capital Improvement Program quarterly reports submitted for council review and possible discussion. This is Ms. Raggio.
Thank you. This also is an informational item. The reports before you are county projects, city projects, and transit capital projects. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Council?
I just got a question. Do we have ETA when we can start the Pine Street West Point bike path construction?
I would have to defer that to the project managers, that would be the county.
Gotcha.
No further council comment. Do we have any public comment on agenda item number 4?
You said on number 4, Mr. Chairman?
Item number 4. Yes.
Thank you. Gary Caldwell, Valley Springs. I just wanted, with respect to item 4, when it talks about background, it says the COG is to track and monitor federal and state funded projects, and I applaud that. I'm glad that somebody is, because as I said a minute ago, we got all this money sitting here. It'd be nice if it got programmed and spent. And it happens to be, as it turns out, it happens to be a feature of SB 1 under the Local Streets and Roads program, except that this report that the local agencies are going to have to do is going to go to the state controller's office. And maybe we'll see a different reaction when it goes to the state controller's office. Because my feeling is if you allocate money to a project and it doesn't get done within an agreed to time frame, agreed to now, I'm not saying that you dictate it necessarily, but sometimes you have no choice, that if it's not completed on time or not delivered on time, you withdraw the funds. I think you should adopt a policy like that. And maybe then you won't have these balances sitting here. Thank you.
Mr. Hamham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted, because I know our report says 0 zeros across the board, and I did want to give the council an update of where we're at. We have been spending money. We just are in the process of updating the capital improvement program. For just the lack of the thing, it's gone through a couple numbers of staff members that aren't there. I've now taken it over. I've met with Melissa. I got her the first set of invoices, so you'll start seeing that more frequency in your next quarterly report. So just to give you an upgrade on my 4 projects, the Murphy's Grade Road project, to date we've spent about it was a $321,000 project, at least phase. The city has spent 13% on that project. However, I'll be working with Amber Collins with your later item down the road and the project management team, and you'll see hopefully that project. The city has completed completed all the survey work for that project. The city has completed about 35 to 45% of the drawings. We did all of that in-house, but because we've lost engineers on the case, where we're going to do consulting, where we're going to do it in-house, there's just been some ups and downs with this project. But however, now that the COG is going to be hiring some project management staff, we're going to get this project running, and hopefully they can take our stuff, do the design pretty quickly, and get into construction late, hopefully the end of next year. So again, it's just sidewalks and curb gutters and that type of stuff. So I don't see there's not really any real big issues on the project. So that's probably our one that's been lagging the most. Our PSR 449 project, that's funded through RSTP. The city has RSTP money. Caltrans is doing the PID document or the PSR. They haven't invoiced us yet at this point, and we've spent about $4,000. So that money is still there. However, that money is still available and will be spent by March 20th. Because that's the deadline that Caltrans gave them to complete the project. So that'll be done. Our Angels Creek Trail sidewalk fill gap. We were funded $1 million on that project, 85 in our last call for projects. We've hired the consultant. To date, we've spent about 5% of the money. However, we hired Drake Haglin and Associates to be the project manager and doing the project, so we're getting invoiced monthly. So you'll see that going down. We also worked with COG because of our ATP program grant that we received. We'll be splitting the projects into 2. So we'll be working with our council to get that done. We won't be losing any money, but we'll be able to expedite the sidewalk portion so that we can use the construction money to do that. So you'll see in the next probably quarterly report a split of those 2 projects. But we've got another couple of invoices that we'll be sending to Caltrans from Drake Haglin. So we're moving on that project. The street striping project is RSTP. We haven't started on that project. We were working with COG on the RSCP agreement. That's being handled by our city engineer, city attorney, and the COG staff. And so when we get resolution to that, then we'll start blowing and going on that project. The reason why, just to kind of give the council a little update, the reason why the street striping project, even though it's RSTP and the Foundry Lane are both RSTP, we didn't need an agreement for RSTP for that project because that was from an existing project, another PSR that we had done, so we had money left over. So that was some existing dollars that we're still expending for that. So other than that, if you have any questions, I'd love to answer any of your questions if you have them for our projects. And I need to apologize to my two council members because I got this to you very late. I don't know if you got it or not before you got to the meeting. Oh, you did? Okay, good. So I just want to make sure because I told you I would do that before the meeting. So, all right. Any other questions?
I think we're good.
All right. Thank you very much.
This too was an informational item, no action needed. Item number 5, resolution fiscal year 18-2 and approving the fiscal year 2017-18 overall work program amendment number 1 and overall work program agreement with Caltrans. Ms. Reggio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This overall work program amendment number 1 reflects all the carryover balance after you've reconciled 16-17 year end. So if you turn to page 45, that's where your spreadsheet is, outlining all the work elements and outlining the total amount of carryover balances over the top. These items, there have been like 5 small changes. In my staff report, I talk about we've increased the LTF work item by $5,000. That was for the cost or the contract of our outside bookkeeper. We also have some on-call consultant contracts in the overall work program. We've also included funding for a contract to facilitate the organizational structure analysis for transit. And then we added $10,000 to the SR 49 commercial gateway to cover costs of environmental work. We're currently working with the county planning department. This overall work program amendment number 1 was reviewed by the Executive Management Committee and the Technical Advisory Committee. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Council, are there any questions for Ms. Reggio? Seeing none, is there any public comment on agenda item number 5, the overall work program amendment? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the overall work program amendment?
So moved.
Moved by Second by Councilmember Gary Tofinelli. All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved 7-0. Agenda item number 6, resolution 18-3, approving the allocation instructions for fiscal year 17-18 regional surface transportation program to fund the overall work program amendment that we just approved. Ms. Reggio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this request for RSTP funding is to fund the overall work program amendment number 1. The allocation instructions outline $194,065. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions, council? Any public comment on agenda item number 6, approving the allocation instructions? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Approved by Councilmember Manavides,
Second.
second by Councilmember Tofinelli. All those in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, are you calling for comments on item 6?
I did.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Getting hard of hearing, and I didn't know what item you were on. I would like to comment if that's okay.
At this point, I really want to ask, I'm trying to speak as clearly as I can. I am on the mic.
Into the microphone.
Mr. Chair, can we allow?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tofinelli. On item 6, I was looking at, on page 83, it's got a chart there. And the first item on the chart says RSDP, collector road striping and stop sign replacement. Now, stop sign replacement is not typically taking the post out of the ground. You take the bolts that are holding the sign up there, you have a new sign in the truck, you take the old one off, the faded one, and you put a new sign up. So it's not a big horrendous project to have to do. And with striping, I don't know if the county does its own striping or not, but if you don't do your own striping, you can hire Central Striping to do that. And you'll notice in this chart, it shows it was programmed in 15-16, 2 years ago. Again, if you go to page 24, I think that this is a mistake on the item where it says collector road striping and stop sign replacement. It says City of Angels. I think more than likely that's the county's. It's the same year and the same amount, $80,000. And I want to point out that the amount of work done is zero. Now, this is not a big project to do. So again, we're sitting there with money sitting on the table, and things aren't getting done. 0%, once again. In fact, if you look down that column, everything is 0%.
That's what Dave Hannum, I think,
Just
explained.
addressed.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Toffanelli.
As item number 6 has been approved, we'll move on to item number 7. Item number 7, resolutions approving the allocation instructions for the payment of fiscal year 17-18 LTF funds. Ms. Raggio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, this is an item to fund the overall work program amendment number 1 and meet some TDA requirements. The first allocation that staff is requesting is the $340,000 to fund the overall work program. The second allocation request is for the bike and pedestrian. It's required that 2% is set aside. That amount is $12,786. And then the LTF reserve that we maintain within the fund of 10% or the difference of the annual estimate came to $7,536. If staff has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Any public comment for agenda item number 7? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Middies, second by Councilmember Hunt. All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved 7-0. As we've already moved past item number 8, our next agenda item is item number 9. An update on the 2018 RTIP funding strategy for the State Route 4 Wagon Trail project. Ms. Collins.
Right, good evening, Council. At the last council meeting in September, I provided a presentation, which was an overview of the Regional Transportation Improvement Program process and past and current programming for that program. As you know, the Wagon Trail project has been the region's #1 priority in the last 2 RTIP cycles for Calaveras. And with the recent completion of the environmental in February of this year, and then upcoming work on design work for that project, which is this year starting in October, the project now is in a position to finally reach construction for a segment of the Wagon Trail project. As discussed at our last meeting, this TIP cycle provides an opportunity with new capacity to our region in our RTIP, however small, but it's still something. Since our last meeting, we've worked with the project team, Caltrans, and our regional partners to try to identify a funding strategy to complete a meaningful project. I'm bringing to you tonight a recommendation for a funding strategy to advance the western segment of the Wagon Trail project through to construction with the goal of attracting leveraged state and federal funds. The key elements of this strategy include programming right-of-way in 1819 for the entire western segment, programming environmental mitigation, which is in the right-of-way phase as well, for 1920 for the entire western segment, and then programming construction in fiscal year 2021 for a portion of the western segment. So as discussed in my staff report, this will be enough to construct the priority segment of the western phase from Pool Station to Appaloosa, as well as potentially Bonanza Mine to Hunt Road. This also positions us for additional state and federal funding to complete the underfunded portion of the western segment, which is Hunt Road to Appaloosa Way. Hunt Road to Pool Station, sorry.
Yeah,
This strategy really allows us to position the western segment for construction funding in the foreseeable future, while maintaining our future RTIP shares. So we're not holding up our future RTIP shares by obtaining loans at this point. We're able to just program funding for construction in 2021 to get a portion of the western segment constructed, and then also seek federal and state funding now that we have a good amount of local and regional funds to leverage and make a really strong case for the state investment. Another thing about this strategy is that we'll be able to revisit this in 2019. That'll be our next RTIP cycle, is in 2019, which is right prior to the 2020 construction cycle. So at that point, we can revisit pending additional state and federal funds on what our strategy will be moving forward at that time, and whether we want to seek loans from other regional partners at that time. So tonight, really, I'm just seeking your direction on the recommended programming strategy that I've provided to develop the draft RTIP, and then I'd bring that back to you in November. And if the council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Council. By being quiet, are we basically reaching consensus? We would like to see Amber move forward. I'm going to ask for public comment. Okay. Is there any public comment for agenda item number 9 on the RTIP funding strategy for the State Route 4 Wagon Trail? Okay, we're not going to have any public comment? Okay. Seeing no public comment and no further council comment, do we have an approved? I'd say I'm asking for consensus. This is a direction item to move forward with having Amber follow the strategy she's outlined for us this evening.
Do you want a verbal response?
I think verbal response would be good.
I concur.
I concur.
As do I.
Okay. I think we have certainly majority, and we're reaching unanimous consent.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Had to drag that out, did you?
Nicely done. Thank you, council. This is great to see this project moving
Yeah,
forward.
no, that's
3
good.
years is not that long a time frame for this. Okay. Item number 10. A minute order approving the award of 3 professional services contracts for transportation planning, programming, and project delivery. On-call consulting services to Drake Hagelin and Associates, Cathedral Oaks Consulting, and TJKM. Ms. Collins.
So we released a request for proposals for on-call consulting services in August. Really the purpose of the on-call services is to expedite delivery of consultant services needed for the various work elements in our overall work program. And this would be for projects that aren't large project-specific contracts. So typically, for planning projects that are over $100,000 or even over $50,000, we'll go out for a different request for proposals and bring to you a contract award for a specific project. So this includes work for both COG staff as well as city and county staff. We received 5 proposals. We had a proposal review committee of COG, city and county staff to evaluate the proposals and rank them. We ranked Drake Hagelin Associates, Cathedral Oaks Consulting, and TJKM as the top 3 proposals. I'm recommending tonight approval of a master contract with each of the top 3 ranked proposals to provide specific areas. They all kind of have their specific areas of expertise so that we can call upon. They're on a pre-qualified list, and when we have work that requires a specific area of expertise, we're able to just call upon them, send out a task work order, And then they'll come back with a specific scope, schedule, and budget for that task that we'll agree upon, and then be able to execute that more expeditiously. And like Mr. Hanham said, some of the work that will be under this on-call consulting services will be project management work for the city and county. So I think that's really all I had to say on this. I think included in your packet was kind of their detailed qualifications and staff resumes, so you can kind of see the depth of expertise that we'll kind of have at hand, which will be extremely helpful. Right now, we're down a transportation planner, so I'll be able to use the on-call services as some staff augmentation until we can get that position filled.
Council comment.
I think this was a very wise decision to choose people that we can call upon to help make these projects happen faster and more efficiently.
Any public comment on agenda item number 10, approving the award of the 3 public service consulting contracts? Item 10.
In a way, I'm glad to see you're hiring someone to help out. I wanted to point out to you that on item 10, there's an item, let's see, if you look, actually it's on 5A, it's a chart. It's on page 55, and it talks about planning, program, monitoring state and federal funds, which essentially requires your staff to make sure that the funds that you get from the state and the feds are used in a timely and cost-effective manner. And your staff in this chart at the bottom of page 55 says that they're going to expend approximately 832 hours making sure these funds get spent in a timely and cost-effective manner. 832 hours. That's almost a half a year of somebody's time, just to make sure that your agencies are spending the money that you're doling out to them. It seems crazy that you have to spend that kind of time and money to get agencies to spend the money in a timely fashion. You may want to, as I said, you may want to think about if they're dragging their feet of withdrawing the funding for the project. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Mr. Hannon.
I wouldn't call myself a culprit. I mean, you look at our staffs, we're pretty stretched pretty thin. I'm a staff of 1 that does the transportation planning. I know the county has maybe a couple people that do the job. Sometimes you need a little access. We can't plan projects, do our tasks and our agencies are very, 1 minute we're doing transportation planning, next minute we're doing land use planning, next minute we're dealing with property owners that have issues, and we don't have the time and dedication sometimes it's needed for these projects. And having some alternative staff that we can check in with or help us, they might not need to spend the 840 hours, but it's a place to be augmented. It's a place to be able to, we can go to get resources, because we do have small staffs, and I think that's important, and I think that's why we went with the 3 different firms, due to the fact that they all had 3 separate specialties that they do, and I think it'll benefit everybody. So it'll help us out on both projects and actually obtaining money. So I mean that's the other course of it too. Not a lot sometimes. We have to also try and get money from other agencies. Now we've got people on staff that have experience in that, and again, it helps us move projects along with our small staffs and do that. So I just want to make sure that I want to assure Mr. Caldwell that we're busting our butt to get our projects approved, get them done. So thank you very much.
Is there any further council comment? Seeing none, this is an item that's requiring a motion to approve a minute order. Do we have moved. Moved by Councilmember Mudis. A second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Catalano. All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved 7-0. Number 11, I don't see a county person here, so I don't know.
Mrs. Kelly's back there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't have any report for, Jeff had to go home ill today, so he apologized for not being able to make the meeting. County report, we're just doing our normal work. We met with some supervisors today about SB1 funding, and we're bringing that item back to the Board of Supervisors this next week to adopt a list that has to go to the CTC by the 16th. So that's our main focus right now. We're getting that out. So that's about it right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelly.
And transit report, then I trust you're not going to walk back up, so.
I will.
Okay.
I'll be back at the next meeting to talk about Stuff the Bus, because we're going to need some volunteers to help us out with the Stuff the Bus event coming up next month. So I'll be sending out emails to everybody inviting you guys.
Okay.
I volunteered Jim.
Yay!
And where are you parked?
There's only one Jim in the room.
All right. City report.
When we did the projects. But just to let the council know, we are moving forward. We are, in terms of our PSR project, the 449, I think we're at a point where the project and scope is being worked out and being able to move forward and actually writing the document, which I think is a good thing for the city. We also have all the functional units on board at this point, and we're also working with them on a shop program that they have pending that they're trying to get kicked off. So I think there's going to be a lot of movement within that corridor between Capello to 4 and from 4 to Angel Oaks. There's going to be a lot of movement in that area in the next few years. The Murphy's Grove Road project, I gave you an update of where we're at on that. The Angels Creek Trail, just wanted to say that we are, the consultants have finished all the surveying work. They're now working on they've got all that. They're working on some preliminary design at this point. And we will be working with them to kind of split the projects into two, and again, to access the ATP project. So that's going well. I'm glad we got all the survey work done. In terms of just general things that are going on in the city, for just your knowledge, our Dollar General pulled their building permit, so they're moving forward there. Our Mark Twain Medical, so you'll be seeing construction there. Mark Twain Medical Center, we're finishing up their environmental. We got our comments back from Caltrans, and we'll be ready to move forward to entitle that project here at the end of this month. So that project will be entitled. We're continuing to work with, and we have October 9th, we have the Mark Twain Fest, so make sure everybody goes to that. Other than that, unless you have any other questions on some projects, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Council?
Thank you, Dan. All right, thanks.
Thanks, Dave.
Council reports. I'm sorry, Caltrans. Sorry, Gary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't mind waiting if they want to go first. I don't have a lot this month. The deadline for the grant program is October 20th, so that's coming up soon, and everyone's working on scoping those out. And just a reminder that the various programs that are being funded under SB1 are still going through, some of them still going through hearings, putting together the guidance. So going to Google and entering CTC SB1 will get you to the page there where they have the schedules for what's going on and what stage the various guidance is at for the different programs. As far as the truck passing and parking, I brought that up with the project managers for two of the projects in Angels Camp. The truck parking is going to be a tough fit. And the original feedback is that may fit better into the PSR for the new access on to 4, essentially the Foundry Lane, Angel Oaks. Simply because there's no right-of-way, there's no real place to safely put truck parking on 49. They're having a hard time figuring that out. The truck passing or climbing lanes, really a good item for the RTP. Again, that could be scoped into some of the Foundry Lane. Is not a real natural fit either way, or for the shop projects that we have there. Apologize for the one-lane controls in the annex and Angels Camp. I know I got a couple of questions about when that was going to be done, and I got an answer that was by the end of the week, and by the end of the week didn't happen, and at least as I think it was the beginning of last week I went through, and it's still there. I'm hoping that it's wrapped up by now.
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's it, unless there's questions.
I have a question.
Absolutely.
I've been inundated with questions on the Highway 26 Vista Del Lago stoplights in Valley Springs area. Most of the major questions on them are crosswalks. You only have crosswalks on the west side of Vista Del Lago and on the north side across 26. There's no crosswalks in order for anybody, and there's a medical center that's due to go in there on the southwest corner, and the complaints are there's no way to cross Vista Del Lago to the Terrace Shopping Center, or across from where the future medical center is, where there's sidewalks going to, which would be on the north side of the the south side of the intersection. So there's no access, and the questions are as to why there's no crosswalks there from Caltrans.
I'll follow up PM, find out what's going on with that.
And then the other item I'm being asked, and apparently you might be able to find out or correct me, is the reason that we're waiting to energize them is PG&E has not done their part of the project yet, as far as energizing the lights themselves. I know they have a box there, and I know they did underground to the west side of the street and have a box there, but I'm being told that it's delayed by PG&E to energize those lights.
So again, I'll follow up with the resident engineer. They should be able to, you shouldn't need to get that off the street. We'll just get
Well, that's why I'm asking you now.
better than rumors. Okay.
But there is a major concern for those crosswalks.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Any other council questions for?
Yeah, I do. I'm filling in for Supervisor Dennis Mills, but there is a question I'd like to ask, and I think you may have addressed it privately. At the intersection on Highway 4 in Murphy's, at Tom Bell, Caltrans is in the final process. In fact, I saw them today, saw cutting for triggers. Is that going to correct our timing of the signals? We have a definite traffic problem there while it was under construction and during the weekend, and I'm hoping that the activity today would be in the final phase of that. Do you have any information on that? And I know that Council Tim Muteries had already asked you this question, but seeing that they were saw cutting today, I was hoping that'd be pretty close to what we need to do.
I think the answer is yes and no.
Okay.
The fact that they're saw cutting and doing any repairs or changes to the loops probably means that they're just about done. And so I think the timing is related to just simply being in construction. When we're done with the project, then the timing should go back to normal. But I also have a note to follow up with electrical and make sure that they are aware of the issue they're having on the weekend when the timing is still interrupted and there's no activity to go with it. So,
Thank you.
yep.
When you get the answers to the questions I asked, can you email them to me? So
Yep.
I can get that information out. People are really concerned.
Yep. Thank you.
Public comment to Caltrans?
I agree with Councilmember Toffenelli. It seems to be the major topic of conversation is that intersection at Vista del Lago. I was in the barber shop there at the Terrace about 3 weeks ago, and that was the topic of discussion at the barber shop. And of course, once it goes to the barber shop, it's all over town.
Disseminates out, so maybe, maybe you should email the barber shop too.
Get a different barber. The items were identical to what you brought up, the sidewalk and the crosswalk, I should say crosswalks, and also the electrification of the signals. One comment was made, and I agree with him. That project's been going on for over 6 months, and to not have the ability to be ready to hook up when the signals are installed is unbelievable, that they're not ready to do that. The other thing
It shows that even Caltrans has no control over PG&E.
that probably is true.
So,
The other thing where the thing that came up in that discussion was and I don't know if you know what a bullnose is, but if you go to the intersection of 1226 and you look at 26 coming in, what I would consider to be westbound or northbound maybe, you'll see a bullnose, a curbing that's only about this wide, that's along the double stripe as you approach Highway 12. If you're in the street, if you're going to street across on Laurel or whatever the name of that street is, and what that precludes is people cutting the corner who are turning left. It precludes them from cutting the corner and maybe hitting somebody in their grill, but they didn't do the one of Vista del Lago the same way. I mean, it's the same situation. You've got a right turn lane, you've got a straight through lane, and you've got a left turn lane going on to 26. And yet people, sure enough, they're cutting the corner, and some, I just saw one the other day, cut the corner by about 6 feet. So if Caltrans would go out there and finish the job and put a bullnose in, it's a piece of curbing. Take them, half a day to do that. And put a piece of curbing in there, it would prevent those people from cutting the corner and maybe causing an accident. Who knows? Thank you.
Our next agenda item is council reports. Council reports.
We will be doing the Christmas in White Pines Parade of Lights again this year. It will be the day after Thanksgiving.
I'm going to defer to my fellow supervisor, Gary Toffenelli.
Justin?
The West Point Lumberjack Day Parade is this weekend. That's all.
A couple people mentioned SB1 and following where they're at. The league posted on their website a checklist of what to expect with SB1 and a couple other tools that is interesting in keeping up to speed with where they're going with that, if anyone's interested.
Well, the county when we were talking about CIP projects, it ties into SB1. We'll be discussing SB1 projects and capital improvement projects on the 10th. I think we have to the 16th to turn in. I think the deadline for counties or cities to turn in their projects for SB1 funding is the 16th of October. So we will be doing completing ours on the 10th and having that turned in on time. Other than that, I have nothing else to report. COG related.
Okay, well, we have the Mark Twain Wild West Fest on October 21st. And that's a great day, so encourage everyone to come.
Is Main Street shut down?
It's shut down.
It is.
Yep. For one time a year. Yeah, it's a good time, really. So much fun, bands and a pie eating contest.
Pie eating contest.
So anybody's a good pie eater.
Okay.
Don't look at me.
10 o'clock, 10 o'clock till end of day.
The only thing I can do with pie eating contest. I know.
I guess
I like pie.
as a public member, I'll also highlight that the Murphy's Grape Stomp is coming up as well. So it's nice to see.
That's just
Nice to see a lot of activity going on in the county. Yeah, I think it is.
Take off your shoes, get ready.
That's right. And I think that takes care of council reports, staff reports.
I have nothing to report.
I have nothing to report.
Nothing?
Jim?
Nothing to report.
All right. That concludes our meeting for this evening. Our next meeting will be November 1st in these chambers at 5:30. Thank you.